Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another episode of Whistle Talk. Mike D, the referee, coming back at you. Today, we're going to be concluding our previous week's episode of Rule Number 6, in which I have Daniel Chamberlain, Coach Chip Siegel, and Tommy Barlow from the NJFOA Shore chapter joining me as we dive into the conclusion of Rule 6, the kick game, the fun part of our glorious game for us officials here, the kicking game. Before we dive back into the episode, please, reminder, hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons. Make sure you comment. Go to the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit all that fun stuff there. And without further ado, let's jump back into part 2 of Rule 6, the kick game.
I know
Coach
what a drop
Chip,
kick
would you like
is.
to take this
I'm
line?
the oldest one here.
I've seen Doug Flutie do it, so I can't say you're the only one that's seen it. So.
And I can tell you why they don't do it anymore.
What do you got?
I can tell you why they don't do it anymore.
Why don't they do it anymore?
They've changed the football. It's more aerodynamic. If you go back and look at the old days, when the ball was more like a rugby ball, you'd get that true hop when you did the drop kick. My daddy,
wait a minute, Coach.
who graduated high school in 1959, had one of the old footballs. And it looked nothing like the ones we played with in the 70s and 80s and still play with today. But they're more pointed now, so you don't get that true hop when you drop it.
In the beginning
But
of
the
the game,
original
you guys.
American football looked like a rugby ball.
But before the game, you guys like to bring to the umpire your game balls and your kicking balls. So you're telling me you don't use a rugby ball for your punts?
I don't think they're legal, are they?
Not allowed to swap them out. And no, they're not legal.
But
Trying to get you on that one.
I know they're not legal because I'd have figured that out.
All right, so our scrimmage kicks, 6-2. Any kick from in or behind the neutral zone during a down. And K may punt, drop kick, or place kick prior to the change of possession from in or behind their neutral zone. K doesn't have to be in a scrimmage kick formation to execute the scrimmage kick. And Daniel, you and I talked about that that quarterback kick, that quick kick scenario. So this is
right
where you are still allowed to kick it, but we're not going to afford the center the protection as opposed to being in a scrimmage kick formation. And K or A, depending upon what kind of formation they may be in, they could be in an offense, may not punt, drop kick, or place kick from beyond the neutral zone or after the change of possession. And R, receiving team, or B, the defense, may not punt, drop kick, or place kick the ball, which I don't know why they would even think about doing something like that, of just seeing the ball on the ground and just giving it an old soccer smash. But in those scenarios, we're going to have an illegal kick, signal S31, and a 10-yard infraction there. All right. Coach Chip, I'm going to sign this one off to you.
Y'all said a punt. Okay.
What do you got?
I was going to ask you a question.
Field goal is a punt that can score.
A punt and a field goal are the same in Federation rules.
They are just a scrimmage kick, yeah.
Okay. Because when I was coaching in North Alabama back in the early 90s, there was a little school across the river from us whose punter was horrible, but they had a kicker move in to this little 2A school. They would go for field goals from their own 10. He never made it, but he could kick further than any punter could punt it, and they would just cover them.
Yep.
And he was kicking 40 and 50-yard field goals all for 2 years that he went to that school. It was every Saturday morning in the paper. We would open it up to see like how far did he kick it this week, because it didn't matter where they were they didn't have a punting team, Mike. They just let this kicker kick it, and people were all confused because they changed that rule in college and the NFL back in the 70s, early 80s, and it was wherever it rolled dead. Just like a punt. A punt and a field goal in Federation are the same thing, except you can score on a field goal.
Yes, sir. So, Coach Chip, would you like to take this one?
All right. Touching and recovery of scrimmage kicks. By receivers, any R player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick in the field of play. Can advance unless it is a try, which a try means a try for what?
Extra point. Extra point.
Can advance unless it is a try or a valid or invalid fair catch signal was given. R may catch or recover a scrimmage kick in K's end zone. If kick becomes dead, inbounds between goal lines with no player possession or with joint possession, ball is awarded to R at that spot. That goes back to anytime there's simultaneous possession, it always goes to the offense.
In essence. Yep.
And R is the offense. Right, Tom?
Correct.
When the kick goes beyond the neutral zone, yes.
Yeah.
When it's still behind, K is still the offense.
Well, let me ask you a question. Has there ever been a scenario where a scrimmage kick ends up in K's end zone?
Probably not, but if there's a rule about it, I'm sure it's happened somewhere.
That'd be a hell of a wind.
Yep.
I mean, is that not just a punt that goes backwards? Or, I mean, even if you get to like a blocked punt or something, right? Like those are all, you kind of start working in that realm.
Yeah.
And I had a JV game this past year where they punted from their own end zone, and the punter whiffed on the ball, and the ball was just lying in the end zone, and the receiving team just jumped on the ball, and everybody kind of looked at me. I'm like, guys, that's a touchdown. Like, we got nothing there. They're like, that's not a foul. That's not a I'm like, no, guys, your kicker whiffed. You're not going to penalize anybody for that.
But if he had touched it and it didn't get out of the end zone, they could still recover it for a touchdown, right?
You betcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if it goes beyond the neutral zone, so they kicked from the 5-yard line, kicker's at the back of the end zone. If they kicked it and it landed at the 6, but took one of those funky bounces and started bouncing the other way and came back into the end zone, we still got a touchdown. We got to, somebody's going to get credit for a kick return touchdown there. Crazy, where you're going to get a punt returner.
And it's going to be a lineman, probably. Good deal.
Yeah, it's one of the few times we get to score.
Yep.
All right. Daniel, would you like to jump on this one here?
Yeah, buddy. Touching and recovery of scrimmage kicks, Rule 6-2-3 and Rule 4. 6-2-4. There you go. By kickers, any K player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick while it is in or behind the neutral zone and advance it. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Talked about if your punter is really good and it bounces it back behind your line of scrimmage, you can indeed take that ball and go with it, right?
Yep.
Any K player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick while beyond the neutral zone if it has been touched by R clearly beyond the neutral zone, but touching is ignored if K blocks R into the ball or K muffs or bats the ball into R. So same as the free kicks earlier. There are further restrictions in kick catching interference in Rule 6-5-6, which it looks like we will get to. It's further on. When any K player catches or recovers a scrimmage kick beyond the neutral zone, the ball is dead. So there's no advancement if you've recovering it way down there.
So if the punt doesn't go past the line of scrimmage, the kicking team can advance it.
Absolutely.
I know. We kicked one time. It hit the right tight end in the butt. Came to rest between his feet. He looked down and saw it and took off running and got the first down. And we were raising immortal hell. But it was the right call.
God,
I can tell you exactly where it happened.
I got Forrest Gump running through my head right now. I got shot in the buttocks. Oh, looks like my interweb is going to play games on me, so
Yeah.
I'm going to let you guys just keep
You
going
what?
here. Tommy, you want to take this next one? If you could hear me.
Hang on, I'll pull it up, boys. We'll just keep rolling. Let me get it out of my email real quick.
I was wondering what was happening. He sounded like a robot.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was me because none of you guys were moving for a sec, or if it was him.
Every once in a while, it just dips out. So I did this last time, and I just picked it up and ran with it, and he was okay with that. So let me open mine, and then I will share. He's probably texting me right now, like, I'm so sorry. Share
By the way,
screen.
that kick happened while you're doing that. It happened at Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, and all of y'all know where Crampton Bowl is because that was the home of the Blue-Gray game forever.
All right, I
Where
think
that
I'm
kick
back.
happened. I still remember it. He's back.
I'm like
All right, I'll
Eminem.
quit sharing then. I'll let you share your own.
Good.
Guess who's back?
Yeah.
Must be raining in Jersey.
No, not yet. But we now have Canadian wildfires that are messing with we have air quality issues going on because of the Canadian wildfires right now. So, it's not one thing or the other. Yeah, we got that blurb.
Canadian Wildflowers sounds like a really.
Oh, they've
That
been
sounds like the name of a rock band.
they've been getting crushed the last 2 summers. All right, so first touching of scrimmage kicks. Did you guys go over this one yet?
No, I couldn't get there fast enough.
Amateur hour. All right, our definition.
dude.
We talked about this one in Rule 2-12. First touching, scrimmage kick touched in play, touched in the field of play beyond the expanded neutral zone by any K player before it is touched by R. We got our first touching. Such touching shall be ignored, which again we've talked about. If caused by R pushing or blocking K into the ball, R may take the ball at any spot of first touching, the result of the play, and if first touching is canceled when we have our penalty. Why do I feel like I've talked about that one? Because we talked about it on our kickoffs. There we go. Sorry, technology got me again. So that one's kind of just a repeat of what we talked about earlier. So now we want our touching and out of bounds of scrimmage kicks. Let's make sure we're in the right slide here so I'm not messing everything up again. All right. Daniel, you got this one?
Yep. Touching and out of bounds, scrimmage kick 6-2-6 and 7. Touching of a scrimmage kick in or behind the expanded neutral zone is ignored. Kick doesn't go beyond the end zone. The extended neutral zone. Look at that. See,
There you go.
Got me almost. Treated as any other loose ball, and then the kick goes beyond the extended neutral zone. It's a kick. Any touching in or behind the extended neutral zone is still ignored. Ball is awarded to R if scrimmage kick goes out of bounds, dead with no possession, or joint possession. Ball is placed at the inbound spot when out of bounds, unless R chooses a spot of first touching.
Okay, and that one's kind of self-explanatory. Your punt goes out of bounds, or it just dies, and you got everybody surrounding ball, but nobody wants to pick it up, and they just want to let the clock keep going and going and going. Well, eventually we're gonna kill the play and stop the clock there and have a change of possession, or if it's in joint possession, as Coach Chip brought up earlier.
How long will y'all let it go? When it's obvious the ball's quit moving?
Yeah, it's kind of vague, Coach. Not going to lie. It's going to depend on the crew, but I mean, a long second, if we know that it's really, it depends upon where R is. If there's somebody in the area, we're going to kind of wait a little bit more to see if they want to pick the ball up and be that little daredevil that they sometimes like to be. But if there's nobody around and the ball comes to a complete rest, we're probably going to kill it at that point in time.
I want to hear from Tom. He looked like he was either grimacing or laughing about that question.
No, it's always one of those good, like Mike says, it's vague, and my new guys, when I talk about stuff like this, they're always like, well, what's the answer? And there's not a specific one, but the rule says once it's motionless and no player is attempting to recover, it's dead. If it's sitting there and nobody's around it, we're just going to kill it. If, like Mike said, if somebody's maybe sitting there, we think they might try to pick it up, we're going to sort of let the play kill itself in that instance.
Yeah, I had a ref one time tell me, he said, when we hear you yelling on the sideline, don't touch it, we're going to kill it.
Coach Chip,
So-
I try not to listen to you guys on the sideline, so we try to get rid of those.
Yeah, right. I'll hear every friggin' word.
Well, that doesn't mean we're listening. I mean, I'm married. I know that one. All right. All right, so here we got ourselves another nice diagram here with our neutral zone, our expanded neutral zone. And you can see here our offensive line numbering exception now when we have our scrimmage kicks will come into play, which Daniel and I talked about in a previous episode. So this is where you're going to have a punt where a special teams coordinator is probably going to have a mix of linebackers, fullbacks, those types of players being their punt blockers, as opposed to your field goal team, which is pretty much going to be your offensive linemen. Reason you want those linebackers and fullback types is because they tend to be a little bit more faster. I'm not going to say athletic because us offensive linemen are athletes just in bigger bodies, damn it.
That's right.
They tend to be a little bit, they can cover a little bit more ground at a rapid pace. We'll go with that. So your numbering exception gets taken out. A ball kicked into K's end zone, recovered by K, is now going to be a safety. If it's recovered by R, it's going to be a touchdown. If it goes out of bounds through their own end zone, it's also going to be a safety, which we're going to talk about in one of our later rules, talking about, well, the different types of scores. If the scrimmage kick goes out of bounds, it's going to be R's ball regardless of where it goes, and it's going to be at the inbound spot. So if the ball goes out of bounds, we're going to give it to R. So scrimmage kick out of bounds, regardless of down, belongs to R at the inbound spot. So again, that one's kind of self-explanatory there. So here's our numbering exception again now, as we just talked about. So our offensive line numbering exception. Typically on a field goal, you're going to see predominantly offensive line out there, and a lot of times you're going to see ineligible tight ends that are out there, and our deep wings that are going to be underneath the goalpost should be identifying that those players are ineligible by number, even though they might be in an eligible position as a tight end. They are ineligible by number. But your numbering exception comes into play because a lot of times your long snappers, or in this scenario, short snappers, are going to be a legal number. So they are allowed to be out there. And if you go back and take a look at one of my videos about the not so ordinary plays, we have a team that lined up in your swinging gate type of formation where they had an ineligible number on a first down. So that number was not legal in that scenario because you have to have 5 ineligible numbers in that scenario unless it is truly a kick type of play.
Now, Mike, I think we talked about this, but the formation can dictate that exemption, right? If you come out in a punt formation, even if it's first down, do you get the exemption, or does it have to be third or fourth down? Or
Tommy, what's your thoughts
is the
on
formation that gives you the exception, or is it the down and distance?
that? Can you kick a field goal on
It's
first
the,
down, Daniel?
Hey, I mean, you know, if I just need to run out 7 seconds or something, and I just want to boot a punt down there, maybe.
Yeah.
Back in the day, a lot of people quick kicked on first down.
Tommy, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry, bud.
No, yeah, it's the formation, but only on fourth down can you replace all of your linemen. On first, second, or third, you can only replace the snapper with non-50 to 79.
All right, I got 2 questions. Well, one comment that I want you referees to tell
Comment,
all the
question,
coaches,
exclamation.
tell all the coaches about this. In the NCAA and NFL, you can run the fake field goal or extra point where the wingback comes running behind the holder and he flips it to him over his shoulder, or he flips it to the kicker over his shoulder. That's not legal in high school if the holder has a knee on the ground.
Correct.
Correct.
He does have to
Make
stand
sure
up.
they all know that, because they see it happen on Saturday and Sunday and they wonder why they can't do it on Friday. The other question is this, talking about formations and depth. Free kick punt formation. If the quarterback lines up really deep, is the center afforded protection on first, second, and third down?
By the book, 10 plus yards. Yes. As long as you're in a scrimmage kick formation, which for a punt, as we described, the rule book says 10 plus yards behind the line of scrimmage. If you're in 8 or 9, I think we're probably giving you the benefit of the doubt, particularly at lower levels, where we're not expecting a freshman or an 8th grader to be able to snap the ball 12, 15 yards.
So okay, because again, 20 years ago, I'm scouting Hoover because we're playing them the next week, and guess who they're playing in the first game of the season? Nice. Who was the quarterback at Nice? Tim Tebow.
He's pretty good.
So we're there scouting him. They can't protect him for nothing. So they come out in the second quarter and they put his butt 8 yards deep and then started penalizing Hoover for their nose guard hitting the center because they were in a punt formation. That was 20 years ago.
So I can tell you when I played, I think the rule was written a little differently because my coach used to try to use the numbering exception. And I think the rule was 7 or more yards back. You have a player 7 or more yards back. It's a scrimmage kick formation.
Yep.
And probably similar to the reasoning you just gave with that example, they changed it to 7 or more yards back with somebody acting as a holder and somebody acting as a kicker, or 10 or more yards back only.
Now, Coach
But
Chip,
I'm telling you, snapping the ball to him.
I can tell you
Go
that
ahead.
back in my day, which we're now talking 30 plus years ago, when I was a long snapper, none of these rules existed because my indoctrination into long snapping as a sophomore in a varsity game was I had a split that was about 4 feet wider than my shoulders. I was there to snap the ball. That's all the coach told me to do. And I had a kid in a scrimmage lineup said, "I'm going to knock you on your ass." And I had a perfect snap to the punter, 15 yards back. And guess what this kid did? Well, he knocked me on my ass right away. And he started over me and he trash talked me. And I said, "Did the punt get off?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I'm good." But I didn't get any protection.
Dude, I got a similar story. First game I ever played varsity football, I was a sophomore. The snapper got hurt. I snapped homecoming 1978. 78? Yeah, 78. And we were playing the school where my stepmother was a teacher. She bragged to everybody that her son was going to be playing in the game. So they all knew there was a rook snapping on extra points and field goals. First time we scored, they hit me so hard I almost blocked the extra point.
Nice. Needed a little more.
I literally almost blocked the extra point. They drove me 5 yards back into the backfield. Yeah.
So now, Coach Chip,
Don't brag.
back in your day, did they have fair catches?
Yes.
All right. So you're going to take this slide here, 6-5.
Fair catch. R forfeits advancing the ball to get protection. Free kick. Enter beyond neutral zone to R's goal line. Scrimmage kick. Beyond the neutral zone to R's goal line. Any R player may signal for a fair catch while any legal kick is in flight. Prohibited from blocking until the kick is ended after giving signal. Penalty. Blocking after valid or invalid signal is 15 yards. It is a fair catch and ball is dead if R gives valid signal and catches the ball. From enter beyond the neutral zone to R's goal line for a free kick, or from beyond the neutral zone to R's goal line for a scrimmage kick. I just saw this happen the other day. I was watching old film, and it was Augustana playing in the Stag Bowl, and they got penalized because the guy signaled fair catch, and he ran up like he was going to catch it and ran into the kid, and the referee deemed he did it on purpose, and he called it whatever blocking after a free kick, after a fair catch.
No,
Yep.
I think one of the more recent ones that I've seen, and I'm saying this more recent, I think Julian Edelman did it with the Patriots a couple of years back, where he gave a fair catch signal and absolutely blew the guy up. And well, we could say Coach Belichick was not very happy with that, because that one was definitely a 15-yard penalty. But if they don't give that that fair catch signal, they can go and block. So that is one thing where you'll see them give the dummy return and go to one side of, although the ball might be on the left side, they're going to the right side, and they may take a free lick at somebody. NFHS Federation rules, we may still have a little yellow hanky down there for unnecessary roughness or something like that when you're taking a free kill shot on somebody. But yeah, in the NFL, Julian Edelman lit this guy up, and well, the flags went flying, to say the least. So
You got to love a wide receiver with a full beard.
So, Tommy, invalid fair catch signal. It's something that's been going back and forth with our association, and I know in our state. What would be an invalid fair catch signal?
An invalid would be one that does not meet the requirements of a valid signal, which is one arm over your head wave, or it is given after a ball is hit the ground. So you can no longer give a signal after the ball's hit the ground. In terms of flagging it, only the second one probably in most cases, unless we've warned a kid a few times about his signal and he's still doing it. But very rarely penalized for invalid fair catch signal in terms of not meeting requirements, is clear and visible, given above the head, all that.
So now we've had a lot of discussion with this one, especially on afternoon games instead of a Friday night game, with a punt returner going back and kind of shielding the sun and different things like that. And now all of a sudden that hand's over their head, and although they're not giving a fair catch signal, the defense thinks it's a fair catch signal. The kicking team, I should say, thinks it's a fair catch signal, and they stop covering. What do we got in that scenario? The old interweb.
Like we lost you again there, Mike.
What does it sound like when a robot's battery runs down?
Give him Das Boot.
And there he goes.
So I think I kind of know where he was going. Basically, any sort of signal, like I think he was trying to say, like shielding the sun for the coaches out there, the poison signal, even though the world maybe doesn't know those as fair catch signals, it could be seen as deceiving the other team into thinking that he's afforded protection when in reality he's not. So we're just going to treat those kind of as fair catch signals. We're not going to penalize them for being invalid. Really, the penalty comes down to stopping the return and blowing the ball dead once it's possessed after any of those, the poison signal, the hand. I think actually the NCAA rulebook, even though we're talking NFHS, has a whole slew of examples of things that won't be penalized but will be cause the play to become dead, right, in terms of signals.
Guess who's back?
We saw you.
Woohoo! All right, and here we go. Continuing with our fair catch. Good save, gentlemen. Thank you very much for keeping it rolling there. Fair catch 6-5. Only the receiver who gives a valid fair catch signal is afforded the protection. So that one's an important one there, too, because if you got some numbskull that's running down the field and they're waving for a fair catch, but they're not catching the ball, and the person who does catch the ball, well, if they get popped, we're going to kill the play like Tommy was just talking about, but it's not going to be a penalty in that scenario. We're not going to – he didn't know it was a fair catch, so only the person who gives that fair catch signal gets afforded that protection in that scenario. So continuing
So
with that,
if
go ahead.
multiple people are giving it, do they all get the protection?
Good question.
Technically, yeah, but it's
So- If a team's just super aggressive, I can be like, all 11 of you get your hand in the air. That way they can't hit any of us without it being a penalty.
you
So
better make sure that the receiver stops at that point and doesn't start getting a delay game
Right.
penalty too.
Right.
if they're all in a reasonable position to catch the ball, because technically you're only given the protection if you give the signal and you catch the ball. Now you could have KCI in those instances, right? If your nose guard is standing on the line of scrimmage giving a fair catch signal, doesn't mean the other team can't hit him,
Okay.
but they can't hit him if he catches the ball, because then it's dead as soon as he catches it.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense. But that was a
thank
good
you.
question, Daniel.
Thank you for clarifying that one, Tommy. So a receiver shall not give an invalid fair catch signal when it does not meet the requirements or after the kick touches the ground or an R player. Again, we got an invalid fair catch, which is going to be a 5-yard infraction. The runner shall not give an illegal fair catch signal. Again, given by the runner after the kick has been caught or recovered. So I've seen it where a returner to the right catches the ball, but the returner to the left then gives a fair catch signal after the ball has been caught. Typically, that's you're going to see that at your lower levels, not often at the varsity level, but sometimes at the lower levels. But again, that's going to be an invalid fair catch signal on that one. So another 5-yard infraction. And no receiver may advance the ball after a valid or invalid fair catch signal. And that's where I just mentioned before, our delay game penalty. So again, we see it as officials. We should be blowing the whistle dead and blowing the play dead right when the ball is caught to A, give the protection, but B, to try to prevent that delay game penalty. But if that receiver takes off and they're going 75 yards down the sideline trying to score a touchdown, well, then we're going to have a delay game penalty in that scenario. All right. Moving right along. KCI, kick catching interference. Tomas, I'm going to defer to this one to you.
All right. So kick catching interference. These situations apply to a free kick in flight in or beyond the neutral zone, or a scrimmage kick in flight beyond the neutral zone. So basically that 10-yard belt on a free kick. You can have KCI in that. A scrimmage kick, it's only beyond the neutral zone. So K shall not touch the ball or R unless they are blocked into the ball or they are warding off a blocker or obstruct R's path to the ball. The only exception to this is K may catch, touch, muff, or bat a scrimmage kick in flight beyond the neutral zone if no R player is in position to catch the ball. These provisions apply whether a fair catch signal is given or not given, but no longer apply after a free kick has been touched by R or a scrimmage kick touched by R clearly beyond the neutral zone or any kick has hit the ground. So KCI is for your free kicks is before the ball touches the ground. You cannot contact an R player, obstruct their path to the ball, touch the ball while it's still airborne. Scrimmage kick, you have a little more flexibility in touching the ball while it's still airborne, but you still can't contact the potential receiver unless he's initiating the block first or obstruct their path to the ball. There's no halo rule in high school. It's really just that vague obstructing their path to the ball. And then penalty is kick catching interference, which is just your pass interference signal as we all know it. And it does have particular special enforcement, but it, for the most part, is a 15-yard penalty.
So now, Tom, with the free kick in flight, in or beyond the neutral zone, if we have kick catching interference, ball's kicked from the 40-yard line, only goes 5 yards in the air, and somebody from K touches the ball, we're going to have a 15-yard kick catching interference because it's in the neutral zone at that point. But we'll also have first touching at that point.
Yep. But you're 15 yards from the spot of the KCI, which is the same as the spot of first touching, is probably better than taking the ball at the spot of first touching.
Yep. I just wanted to clarify that for everybody out there.
Yep. It is first touching, so by fishing standards, beanbag down and then a flag down at the same time because
Yep.
it is KCI because it hasn't hit the ground yet.
So as you mentioned, KCI is typically going to be your 15-yard penalty, 15 yards from the previous spot, and a replay of down, or accept the results of the play. These are our special enforcements. It's rare that you're going to have them replay the down. If you get the kick catching interference, they're going to take the 15-yard penalty and want possession of the ball. So the awarded fair catch plus 15 yards. So Daniel, talking about weaponizing that kick, you get that 15 yards, and now you get the awarded fair catch penalty. Now you can come out with your free kick formation for a field goal. So you're getting that bonus 15 yards on there, so you can add that one.
That's what I'm talking about.
Coach Chip?
I've actually seen that done, but I don't have anything. I got a question later, but
Okay.
not for this.
So fair catch versus not a fair catch. Fair catch is a valid fair catch signal, and they catch the kick. So again, above the head, we try to tell them, give us really like 2 waves so that we really all know it, plus they catch the ball. That would be what a fair catch is. An awarded fair catch is a provision of a penalty for kick catching interference, which we just talked about. You get that awarded fair catch. Now you can go with your free kick for a field goal type of scenario. R has the option to take the next snap or free kick anywhere between the hash marks, which Daniel and I talked about last week. This is one of the times where you get to choose if you want the ball in the left hash, middle of the field, right hash, upright, whatever it may be. It is your option for R in that scenario on where you want the ball. And it is not a fair catch if an invalid signal signaled by a different player, signal and a muff, the ball is still dead, but there is no protection, and you don't have the option to choose from where it is snapped from. So these are going to all be put into play. When we talk about between the hash marks, typically we're just going with where the ball is, unless the coach says, hey, I want the ball on the right hash. So coaches, just be mindful of that.
So, Mike, I've got to ask here. It says signal by a different player. So if my front line fair catches it, my receiver snags it, knows it's a fair catch, do I still get the option to free kick after fair catch? Or is that waived due to it not being a fair catch with the different person signaling it?
I'm interpreting that as it's being waived because it's got to be caught by you as the returner. Going back to the top bullet point where you give a fair catch is the valid fair catch signal and they catch the kick. Tommy?
Yeah, so, yeah. No, it's spot on. It's got to be the player who gives the signal. Has to be the one to catch it to get your provisions to free kick or choose your lateral position to snap.
Good one to know.
That is a good one to know. Good question, Daniel.
All right, Coach Chip, I'm going to let you take the free kick after fair catch here because you've seen it. Tommy, have you seen it?
Only on Instagram. I found a couple high school the past few years.
Were any of them in Alabama back in the 90s?
No. Fairly recently. One was a playoff game, and it won the game for him. It was
The one I saw was a third-round game. Yeah.
All right, so Coach Chip, you got this one.
One of the most unique situations in football, not many know of it. A free kick shall also put the ball in play. C, when a free kick is chosen following a fair catch, an awarded fair catch, or the replay of a down which follows a fair catch, or an awarded fair catch. You're going to explain that one to me in a minute. The captain may choose to free kick or snap anywhere between the hash marks. A field goal is scored as follows. A, the field goal attempt shall be a place kick or drop kick from scrimmage. or from a free kick following a fair catch or an awarded fair catch.
Now, I'm going to let Tommy take your question, but Daniel, I'm going to ask you a question here on the second bullet point, Rule 654. Captain choose free kick or snap anywhere between the hash marks. We've talked about that. Who's making that choice?
Well, we all know it's the coach that's making the choice, and we kind of discussed that in a previous episode where a lot of times the rule book says it's the captain, but refs are not that hard up to screw a team out of a chance to win a game in an exciting way. So the coach is over there making that choice.
Yes, sir.
All right, Tom, what,
Yep.
what does that mean? A free kick shall also be put into play when a free kick is chosen following a fair catch, an awarded fair catch, or the replay of a down which follows a fair catch or an awarded fair catch. What does all that mean?
Yeah, so it's kind of a half quote of the rule. So Rule 412 is the rule that tells you how we put the ball in play. So I think Rule 411 is we put the ball in play by a snap.
Mm-hmm.
Here's when. And Rule 412 is here's when we put the ball in play by a free kick. I think Part A is for a kickoff to start the game. Part B is for a kick after a safety. And then Part C, it says a free kick can put the ball in play when a free kick is chosen following a fair catch, etc.
You explained it better than the words did.
Yeah, it's a
One
half
time
quote of the rule
the one
book that
time
doesn't
I-
make much sense.
No, the one time I saw it happen, the receiving team or defensive team actually made it easier for the team that was doing the kick because they didn't know what the heck was going on. The referees created the 10-yard neutral zone. When the referee blew the whistle, the kids were standing there looking around, and as the kicker approached the ball, they just charged it and blocked it twice. So
We
it
got
was
a free 10
actually
yards out of that.
well, they fair caught it like just on the good side of the 50. So by the time the kid kicked it, it was inside the 40. So he was getting, and he was a good kicker, and he kicked it, and it was the third round of the playoffs. That team went on and won the state championship. But we were all sitting there as coaches, and I was that nerd that always read the rule book, and I'm going, oh my God, I've never seen this before. Oh my God. I knew it could happen, but I'd never seen it happen. And that was, like I said, in the 90s.
I knew you were a nerd
But-
like that, Coach Chip. Good stuff.
Hey, you can call it a nerd, but I always kept a copy of the rule book in the coach's office bathroom. So
Absolutely.
That's as good a place
So-
as any.
Not for it.
We have our final slide of the night. So, a free kick after fair catch. By choosing a fair catch free kick, R can score a field goal via a free kick. And why would they? Well, Coach Chip, you mentioned it. It should be uncontested because there is still that 10 yards apart. So, if you are able to block that free kick from 10 yards away, you've got some vertical leap there. I'll give you a lot of credit if you're able to do that, but basically you got to still give that 10 yards, and it can't be broken basically until the ball is kicked. So if you're able to sprint forward at that millisecond that the ball's going to be in the air, good for you. And you're going to want this late. It typically happens late in the game or late in and a half when there's little time for any additional plays because, well, basically if there's still time left and the ball does cross the goal line and doesn't score, it's going to be a turnover, it's going to be a touchback, and the other team's going to get possession at the 20-yard line. So you're going to see it when there's little to basically no time left. So late in the half for a game, presuming that 3 points could affect the outcome of the game in the fourth quarter. You'll see this when K is punting from deep in their own territory, or when you have that KCI, which we just talked about, Daniel, for that fair catch, or the fair catch after a really short kick. But again, it's not only the signaling of the fair catch, but it's also the catching of the fair catch by the person who signals that fair catch. So if you know that the other team's got a really bad punter and they're punting from their end zone late in the second quarter, well, you may tell everybody, give a fair catch signal, but make sure you catch it, and then we can get a free kick. So, again, very,
This
very
team-
rare.
That team I was talking about had 4 guys back deep.
Yep.
They had them pinned deep. They had a guy on each hash and a guy on each number.
And listen,
Fair catch.
catching a punt is that's a skill in its own right. I mean, just the nerve to be a punt returner of catching the ball when your eyes are looking up and straight up in the air for a ball that should hopefully be 30, 40 yards up in the air with people screaming down at you. That takes some nerve. I always remember Kenny Easley talking about it, old Seahawk safety back in the day, dating myself here. But he was a nut job that would go back there because he didn't care. I don't think he ever fair caught a ball in his career. But he was a special individual.
He had a nickname, though. He was one of the first big safeties. Remember that, Mike? One of the first big 200 and something pound safeties that was built like a linebacker.
Yes, sir.
He'd have been perfect for the Tampa, too.
Yes.
Because he was huge.
So I got one more question here, but I know we're getting ready to kind of close out. But this free kick that we're kicking would be the same as a punt, right? So I could also utilize this to get it out of my own, like my offense isn't doing anything. I just need to get this ball back down in their end or whatever. Can I kick it down there and have it down at the 1 or kick it out of bounds way down? I don't know. I'm just asking ridiculous
That's another
question
good
here.
question.
Another way to utilize this, though, because a kick is a kick is a kick, right?
Yeah, all the free kick rules apply. So when you kick it, they could recover and advance it.
But I can
You
send
could
guys
kick it.
down to cover it.
You recover it and down it, like you said, just like a punt, but it would be just like a regular free kick. So you
that
can't
make it-
advance it.
Does that make it an onside kick, Tom? If I boot it down there and just send people chasing after it and my field goal kicker can't make it, can we recover this?
Yeah,
ball
same
that's
thing.
on
Free
10
kick.
yards?
Not once it goes 10. I know
Once it
that
goes
one.
10 and hits the ground, it's a free kick. You could recover it. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking. See, here we go. That's like the
Yes,
best
no, you
offensive
can't
play in
recover it.
football.
You can recover it and regain possession, Tom?
Yeah, it's a normal free kick. So just
Oh, I love
imagine you're
that.
kicking off.
I'm going back in. I'm back in. I put the whistle back on.
Weaponized it. Let's go. The longest onside kick in history.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, on my deathbed, if you ask me what is your only regret in coaching is that I never got to do a free kick after a fair catch. And we practiced it because I practiced it. If I had a good kicker, every Thursday we practiced it. Never happened.
Yep, 100%. It's one of those nuanced rules that a lot of people don't know. So the fact that you actually practiced it, you are already ahead of the game in that scenario. And so will Daniel
Yeah.
now because he was locked and loaded now.
Oh, that's awesome, though, dude. Yeah.
I love to weaponize it, man. That's my favorite part of this.
Well, gentlemen, we have finally come to the end. And once again, I must thank you all three for having the patience of dealing with my interweb here, which I just want to throw out the window. Not that that would do anything because it's cellular.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Mike,
Yes, Chip.
I got that question.
Oh, boy.
It's not necessarily a kicking question. Let's say it's 4th and long, and my quarterback is my punter. And instead of punting it, he throws it deep and high down the field. And their corners are mugging my gunners all the way down the field. Is that pass interference?
Are you throwing it to one of those gunners? Is it in the direction?
No, dude, there's no such thing as an uncatchable pass in Federation rules.
You got me there.
Coach Chip.
And I've always thought that was a flaw in the rule book.
And
I've always thought that was a flaw in the rule book.
I'm not going to lie to you. I've run that play before for that sole purpose. No.
We did too.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
can you
and
get,
you don't
can you
get
get
it
them to
unless you
actually
want
throw
the
the flag?
Well, you
They
got to
should.
warn the referee you're going to do it.
And that's one of those pregame conferences that
That's
Yep.
absolutely
Yep.
something you should tell them and get their
Absolutely.
interpretation on it before you try to do it and get mad.
Exactly. Because some referees they won't say it because it goes against the rule book. They won't say, Coach, they couldn't catch that ball. But you know that's why they didn't throw the flag.
Or could it be considered deception by the offense of trying to look like a punt, and now you get a penalty for deceiving the other team?
In that case, the wishbone, inside veer, and all triple option offenses should be banned.
Coach, you don't even have to take it that deep. What about counter? What about play action?
There you go. What about reverses? RPOs? That's what I told a referee one time. We did the hunker down on the punt. They said, Coach, you were attempting to deceive them. I said, hell, we attempted to deceive them on 9 out of 10 snaps.
Yeah, this is where the coach comes out of me, and I don't disagree with you, but Daniel is right. You might get a deception type penalty in that scenario. So definitely, if you're going to do something like that, discuss it with your officials before the game. Let them know, because here's the other thing that you have to remember: a lot of our keys as the officials on the field, only basically is going to be looking at the punter. So to know if the ball was punted or thrown, it's basically going to be on the referee. And then the referee is going to focus on the safety of that punter / quarterback, and they're not looking to see what the outcome is down the field. So the people that are possibly calling the interference that you're looking for, they think the ball's punted. So they're probably not going to drop a flag on that. Where the referee knows that the ball was thrown, but they're still looking at the quarterback for their protection. They don't know what's happening down the field. So you're going to have 5, 6 different officials on a different page, not realizing that, oh, it's an incomplete pass. Wait, what? They thought it was punted. So definitely talk it over with their officials before the game.
For sure.
If they don't call it, I'll use one of my favorite quotes from Marv Levy. You over-officious jerk.
Yes, sir. NFL films right there.
Mike, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you having us on.
Thanks, Mike. Good to meet you, Tom.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep, Tom, was good to meet you as well.
Yeah,
guys,
absolutely.
once again, I appreciate you. Coach Chip, I'm going to steal one out of your playbook here. I may be breaking this one up into 2 episodes too, but for those that were staying with us live, do appreciate you all being out there. Gents, I appreciate you once again for sticking with me during my internet issues. Guys and gals, go check out those guys' websites. Check out what they got going on. Daniel Chamberlain, Coach Chambo OK, and Coach Chip. Okay, check out their websites, their YouTube pages. They got fantastic stuff out there. And, Guy, once again, thank you all for everything you guys do. Keeping this game great. Appreciate you all. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.